Are you interested in learning how to better manage your weight? Maybe you're interested in losing a couple of pounds, or maybe you just want to maintain and not gain. Well, we're going to give you a brief presentation on how to do just that. I am Jennifer Brown, Extension Agent for the Family and Consumer Science Program in Person and Granville counties in North Carolina. And this workshop is going to include some information about popular weight loss diets, superfoods that you want to try to include in a healthy eating lifestyle, how to eat healthy for a lifetime instead of just focusing on a short term diet, learning more about mindfulness. And we have an annual holiday challenge so that you can maintain and not gain that we will mention. So first of all, there's several popular weight loss diets. We're only going to cover a couple of them. Some of the most famous, well-known, or the ones that are kind of the big craze right now. And we're going to give you some information, some of the pros and cons about each, and then talk about how they kind of compare as a whole. So first, we're going to start with the Whole30 diet. This is a diet that has been very popular with the millennial generation. It's kind of seen as a quick fix. And part of that reason is it's a 30-day diet. That's why it's called Whole30. You only have to do this diet for 30 days. But unfortunately, it's very restrictive. You are not allowed to have any grains. It doesn't even matter if it's a whole grain. So unfortunately, this diet lumps all of the grains together. And one of the things that we've shared with people before is not all grains are bad. Not all carbs are bad. Not all fats are bad. So we don't want to lump them kind of together. And the way to help fix this is we want you to eat whole grains. Now, part of the good things about this diet is it's very short term. It's only 30 days. So that might be something that is appealing to you. It's a very short term diet. It has been known to kind of increase mindfulness. Part of the reason it does that is it just gets you thinking about what you should be eating and what you shouldn't. Unfortunately, since it is so restrictive, it can be very difficult to maintain. In fact, I don't know too many people that have actually made it all the way to the 30 days. In fact, on a poll amongst diet experts, it was recently ranked one of the worst diets. And that's saying something out there. You want to think about some of the diets, some of the pros and cons before making a decision. One of the benefits you might see is that short, but it's short term because it's very difficult to maintain. And we don't like it just because it takes out an important food group. I don't like diets that restrict or completely eliminate a particular food group. And just focusing on getting whole grains instead of cutting out all grains is what we would recommend more than anything else. So detox, you might have probably heard about this with a lot of celebrities. There's not really a clear definition about what a proper detox is. It can be seen as short term. It could be a simple, I'm going to fast for 2 days. It could be, I'm going to be on one of these juicing diets or smoothies or those kinds of things. Unfortunately, one of the claims about this detox diet is it claims to get rid of toxins from the body. But again, there's not really a clear definition. There's not a lot of scientific research behind it to see if it actually works. But since it tends to be very short term, it's not going to have too many, detrimental problems or, cause any side effects for you. But on the other hand, your body has a natural detoxification process. So we want to encourage you to simply support what your body's already trying to do. And you can do that by drinking water. That will help flush out a lot of things from your body. It's also helpful if you eat fruits and vegetables, which is definitely recommended from the My Plate, but also because that is going to help you stay regulated. It's going to give you antioxidants, and it's also going to increase your fiber, because fruits and veggies are full of fiber, especially if you eat them intact. Eat the whole apple peeling and all. Eat the orange instead of drinking orange juice. You get more nutrients, you get less calories, you get less sugar, and you get more fiber by eating the actual whole fruit instead of just drinking the juice. The next diet is gluten-free. Now, if you are, gluten intolerant and have celiac disease, then, always talk with your doctor. And this might be something that you need to do, because if you are intolerant and cannot digest gluten, then you should not be eating it. But there are some people who are just a little insensitive, or there's some people who just go on this diet. And research has shown that they don't necessarily recommend you to eat a gluten-free diet unless you are actually gluten intolerant or celiac, have celiac disease. Now, what is gluten? Basically, what that means is you can't eat wheat, barley, or rye. And one of the reasons that this diet has become popular amongst people who are not gluten intolerant is because there's been several books published that claim wheat causes belly fat, it causes disease, and it causes, your brain to not function properly. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of actual scientific data to kind of back that up. And one of the things that we actually know about grains is Americans eat about 7 ounces of grains per day, which is about typically, kind of what we should be consuming. The problem is less than 1 ounce of that total is whole grain. So we're just eating too much of the wrong type of grain. We're eating the refined grain. In fact, 40% of the grains that we consume is yeast bread and pizza crust. So thinking about hamburger buns and pizza crust, which we know is highly processed foods that we're going to tell you to stay away from. So again, it's not that you can't have grains, it's you're just eating the wrong ones. And in fact, if you consume whole grains, research has shown that eating whole grains has been associated with a decreased belly fat. So they, again, like the Whole30, they're lumping grains in this one category and saying they're all bad. And in fact, that's not the case. We just want you to be eating whole grains. Now, some of the benefits of the diet is if you are decreasing, you're completely eliminating grains, that means you're decreasing those refined grains, which we want you to do. You're decreasing that fast food, which we want you to do. And you might be replacing it with fruits and veggies, which we want you to do. We would just like you to do those 3 things, but also get your whole grains as well. And again, if you are gluten intolerant, then definitely check with your doctor, and this might be, help solve some of those problems. The next diet I'm going to talk about is the paleo diet. So this diet basically wants you to eat like a caveman, eat like our ancestors did. So, they do recommend avoiding highly processed foods, but they want you to restrict whole grains, legumes, like beans and seeds, and dairy. So they want you to take out 2 entire food groups, your grains and your dairy. And your legumes give you a lot of protein. So they're taking out a chunk of the protein category too. Now, again, a side benefit is since you can't have those 3 things, you might be eating more fruits and vegetables. But unfortunately, a lot of people with this diet take it as I can have a lot of meat because that's what our cavemen, our ancestors used to consume. And if you're doing that, you're having a diet that's very high in meat and very high in saturated fats, which is not good for your heart. And unfortunately, also some people take this or any of these diets and they kind of twist it a little bit. So they'll take a beef product and they'll make kind of a beef bar. You've seen those protein bars. They'll make one of those. And while the beef is approved by the paleo diet, because that's protein, they've taken that beef and made it into kind of a beef granola bar or protein bar and have made a highly processed product. That bar has been very highly processed. And that means it's very high in sodium and high in a lot of other things. And the paleo diet wants you to avoid highly processed foods. but they say that this protein bar is made of beef, which is okay for the paleo. So they're kind of combining two different things because they want to make it taste good and they want to make you think that oh, hey, this protein bar is really good for you. That protein bar is part of the problem because it's very highly processed. I don't care if it's made with a food product that is approved by the paleo diet. So just understanding how to kind of maneuver around some of these recommendations with some of these diets and understanding, again, it's very restrictive that you can't have grains, legumes, and dairy, things that we want you to have. Now we're going to switch to the low fat diets. These kind of started around this big craze in the 1980s. And you saw low fat, reduced fat, skim this, all of those titles started coming out on our food products. Unfortunately, if you noticed, we didn't get any smaller. Okay, so even though these diets are talking about decreasing the fat, unfortunately, they're taking the fat out of these products, and most of those products, they're replacing that fat with refined carbohydrates and sugars. So they took something bad out and replaced it with something just as equally bad, and they can kind of pass it off as being good for you because they can put the little low fat label on it. It's low fat. It's high sugar or high salt, but it's low fat. Unfortunately, again, this did not help us. These low fat diets have actually not been good for weight loss because, again, they've taken something out and they want the food to still taste good. So they have to put something else in it. So that's not helping our weight loss because they just took out one bad thing and replaced it with another bad thing. Unfortunately, also, a lot of people didn't stick with these diets because they don't taste good. You take out fat, which is something that helps flavor your food, and it's not going to taste as good. So a lot of people didn't do it. Or some people used it as a way to overeat. I can have twice as many Oreos because they're reduced fat, or the potato chips. I can have more, a couple of extra potato chips because it's reduced fat. So portion sizes also had a problem. We had people who were, well, I'm going to still have the Big Mac and the supersized fry, but I'm going to have a diet drink, those kinds of things. So really looking at the labels and looking at your salt, your fat, and your sugar for all of these products is important. Also, it didn't separate out the good fats versus the bad fats. It decreased all of the fats. So that means it was limiting those beneficial fats, those unsaturated, heart healthy, omega-3 brain development fats, the things that are good for your brain and your heart. Okay, so just understanding that you have to look at the entire diet, the pros and the cons, before choosing one if that's what you so choose. The next thing is the low carb diets. These have kind of come around for many, many years. It started kind of with the Atkins diet. You've heard the term low carb, and you've probably heard the term keto diets. So the Atkins diet kind of first came out that they wanted you to limit carbs. And then the keto diet basically has, I kind of refer to it as the Atkins diet on crack, because they took something and made it even more ultra low carb. And that can be very, it can be effective in weight loss because because it's going to make you lose a lot of water weight. But it's not sustainable for long because it helps, it causes a lot of other bad things. Some people have probably heard of the keto flu. So if you go on one of these diets, you are not eating that many carbs. In fact, the keto diet is 20 grams of carbohydrates per day. For someone who's diabetic, a registered dietitian will tell you that you're supposed to consume kind of a range of 45 to 60 grams of carbs per meal. And the keto diet is doing 20 grams per day. You can see how very restrictive that is. So it's not sustainable for long. You're also going to be eliminating the foods that are helpful with weight loss. As I mentioned, the whole grains, the fruits and veggies. Fruits and veggies are carbs. You know, a lot of them are, but they're good carbs. So again, understanding that good fat, good carbs, bad carbs. And also, since it's taking out those grains, a lot of people have that freedom and they feel they can eat as much meat as they want because it doesn't restrict meat. It tells you fat is good for you. In fact, it wants you to replace your source of energy. Carbohydrates give us energy. So it wants you to, instead of using carbohydrates, it wants you to use fats for your energy. And unfortunately, it causes you to become dehydrated. It causes you to become lethargic, to become anxious, to become moody, to possibly have headaches. There's a lot of side effects to doing the keto diet. This is the only diet that I know of that there is something called like the keto flu, because you're not going to feel good. You might be constipated because again, you're dehydrated. But you'll see the weight come off. Unfortunately, when you stop this diet, the weight comes right back on. So it's very difficult to do. It can be effective, but once you stop it, the weight will slowly creep back on because you're going to put that water weight back on. So we want you to maybe try a moderate carb diet. Again, there are bad carbs. So eliminating or restricting certain carbs, the bad ones, the cakes, the cookies, the donuts, the chips, those kinds of things, that's good. But we don't want you to restrict the fruits and veggies, because the keto diet or the low carb diet is basically going to tell you no fruits and only about a half a cup of veggies a day. That is definitely not what any registered dietitian or cardiologist will tell you that you need to do. In fact, the keto diet is not ranked high at all by registered dietitians, by cardiologists, by doctors who focus specifically on nutrition, health, wellness, chronic disease. Now, one of the diets that is actually ranked the highest from the diet experts is the Mediterranean diet. But we like to refer to this as the Mediterranean lifestyle because I don't like diets. Diet is a 4-letter word, and diets tend to be short term. And you kind of go on a diet, off a diet, and it's kind of yo-yoing around. We want you to have a healthy eating lifestyle. We want you to eat healthy for a lifetime. So the Mediterranean way of eating has been ranked number 1 from diet experts because it focuses on you getting the heart healthy fats, the heart healthy meats, fruits and veggies, beans and legumes, eating a plant-based diet, herbs and spices, and it also talks about the importance of physical activity and mindfulness. And in fact, the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service has a 6-week program that we teach called Med Instead of Meds. You can go online to the medinsteadofmeds.com website and look at some of the recipes, look at some of the information on this diet. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me about this curriculum and about this particular way of eating. But no matter which of the diets you are thinking about, or the things that we've said about them, when you are looking at what you want to eat, even if it's not a diet, if you are looking at what kind of healthy lifestyle you want to have focused on food, we want you to focus on certain foods. We call them superfoods. So there's things that we want you to include in your diet, and there's things that we want you to stay away from. So the foods to include are, again, looking at the My Plate. We want those fruits and veggies. We want those nuts and seeds because they have good, heart healthy, unsaturated fats. We want those whole grains that are chocked full of fiber and have been associated with weight loss. We want you to cook with those unsaturated oils and fats like olive oil instead of butter. We want you to eat beans and legumes. Maybe sometimes you're eating those in place of some of the meat products because they help offer a good source of protein. If you are eating meats, we recommend you increasing the amount of fish that you're consuming, maybe dialing back down a little bit some of the red meats. But we have kind of an entire spectrum of proteins that we talk about, and those fishes and the white cuts of the chicken, the white meats, is good and healthy for you to eat. And some of the other ones, staying away from some of the deli meats, the highly processed meats are the recommendations. We want you to limit those, eat those less often. So, and that's what falls into those lists of foods to limit: the ones with the salt, the sugar, the saturated fats, and the highly processed foods. So, looking at those labels and looking for the fat, salt, and sugar, but looking specifically with fat at the saturated fats, not just the total fat. Look underneath it and see, is this a saturated fat? Because your nuts and seeds are going to be very high in fats, but they're going to be high in unsaturated fats. So, understanding that difference. If it is something that's a low fat product, has it been replaced and has higher amounts of sodium, higher amounts of sugar? You have to look at all of the categories. When you're looking at sugar, if this product has fruit in it, it's going to be higher in sugar. So looking at it and seeing, is this natural sugar or is this added sugar? You can see all of that on your nutrition labels. So they become very important to read. And when you're focused on a healthy eating pattern, these are the tips that we've mentioned. These are the pros of the different diets. We want you to put them all together and not just focus on, well, I need to start this diet or that diet. Focus on taking all of the good things from each of the little diets and bringing it together and trying, one new thing a week until you get to where you've developed a healthy eating lifestyle. That's eating the less processed food, eating less fast food, limiting your refined grains, and eating more whole grains. If you are eating grains, we recommend them as grains. So eating, the actual oats, instead of a granola bar that's made with oatmeal or something like that, and just cook it natural as opposed to all of these processed products. Eating more fruits and veggies, especially your cruciferous veggies and your berries. So your green leafy vegetables, your orange vegetables, and your berries are going to have a lot of antioxidants as well. All of them are going to be high in fiber, and they're typically low in calories, depending on how you cook them. And then just making slight changes in your proteins and in the fats, maybe that you're cooking as well. Each of these tips are, the key, and just doing little things at a time, small little changes can make a big difference. And we want you to focus on being mindful. So focusing on the here and now. Don't always be in a hurry. Slow down and enjoy your food. Feel the taste of the food in your mouth. Maybe turn on some music while you're eating, but turn off the TV. Put down the phone or the other technology you have. Save your favorite food for last and just really enjoy the flavor of it. Close your eyes, take that bite, put your spoon or your fork down and just feel and use all of your senses to taste your food. You'll eat slower, which means you'll eat less because you'll feel fuller quickly because your brain has time to process what your stomach is putting in it. Drink more water as well. Sit down at a real table. Sit down with your family. We used to do that. We used to have family meals at the table, and we were healthier as a family together. Little things that you can do to just be more mindful every day, because we make over 200 decisions a day about food. If we're going to eat something, if we're going to skip breakfast, if we're going to have that bite, even just decisions about, am I going to get up and exercise this morning? Am I going to do some basic stretches? Am I going to go to the vending machine today? Am I going to drink water or take water with me or take put leftovers in a container so tomorrow morning all I have to do is open the fridge and they're ready to go and I don't run out of time to do those things. So again, all of those steps, just make eating exclusive. That's the only thing you're doing when you're sitting down at your table. Check your stress level. Why are you eating? Are you eating because you're hungry? Check your hunger level. Are you eating because you're stressed? Some people overeat because they're stressed. Some people undereat because they're stressed. What is causing you? Are you angry about something and that's why you're eating? Are you happy and that's why you're eating? Just understand that how you feel affects what you do. Did you get enough sleep as well? If you don't get as much sleep, then that has been shown to, again, affect your brain to where you crave the greasy, salty, fatty things. Okay. Are you enjoying your food? Or you just, well, it's time to eat lunch because it's noon and you're just going to eat, but you're not hungry at all? Are you eating slowly? Are you chewing your food? Are you watching out for portion sizes? Eat out of a bowl instead of eating bags out of chips out of a bag. Take a handful and put it in the bowl, wrap the bag up and stick it up. Okay. You're less likely to eat seconds or to eat as much. Don't skip meals. If you skip meals, you tend to, be completely famished and then you overeat or you make bad food choices. You may have had every intention of going home tonight and cooking dinner, but you skipped lunch and you're so hungry on the way home that you just say, you know what, forget that. And you go into the drive-through and you pick up something that's highly processed, that's full of fat, full of salt, full of sugar, and you completely, your whole plan for being mindful went right out of the window there. Some people need to track their food or their beverages. They do better if they are writing it down, if they're holding themselves accountable, because they're less likely to maybe eat that candy bar if they have to write it down. Okay. Some people weigh themselves every morning, and that gives them the motivation to be mindful throughout the day. When you're looking at that food, whether it's a snack or something bad that you probably shouldn't eat, ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth the guilt you're going to feel maybe about it later? Is it worth the extra pounds that it might put on? Is it worth the 20 minutes on my treadmill that I have to do later to burn it off? Is it worth all of that? Because we want you to be mindful, because every year, especially around the holidays, Americans gain at least 5 pounds on average, and we don't ever lose it. And then next year comes around and we gain 5 more pounds, and then again and again until we've got 20 extra pounds on us that we don't need. It kind of creeps on. It seems like it comes on much faster than it does go off. But, be patient with yourself, be positive. If you're trying to maintain or if you're trying to lose weight, you didn't put this weight on overnight. It's not going to go off overnight. But every year, the North Carolina Eat Smart, Move More, Weigh Less program has a holiday challenge. It's called Maintain, Don't Gain. And it always starts around the middle of November. And it's typically a 7-week challenge, and it goes through the end of the year. And you can go and register for this, and it just asks your name and your email address. And no matter what part of the country or even world you're in, you can register for this online as long as you have an email address. They will send you weekly newsletters, daily tips, challenges for you to participate in that you might be able to win prizes because they pick weekly winners. And they give you holiday recipes that have been tweaked or changed a little bit to be a little bit healthier, but also tasty and delicious. They offer support through social media, such as a Facebook support group. They even have a support group on the MyFitnessPal app. Again, that's one of those apps so that you can track your food and beverage, and you can track your physical activity as well. And there's even a virtual walking race. So I recommend everyone to go to the Eat Smart, Move More, Weigh Less website and register for this challenge. And again, do it again next year and next year. So hopefully this has helped you learn how to manage your weight and help give you that motivation to achieve your goals in the future. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact me at our extension office at 336-599-1195 or email me at jennifer.brown@ncsu.edu. And we have plenty of information, program flyers, recipes online on our Facebook and Instagram at Person Granville FCS. Thanks for tuning in.